This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
I'm Alison McFarlane and I'm the lead teacher for Rutland Music Hub. We are for the whole of the county. We are Arts Council funded and we're a charity. We're available to all primary schools and our funding allows us to go into primary schools and run singing projects, instrumental projects. We run first access recorders. We're primarily based in primaries, but we do work with the local secondary schools as well.
And tell us about the medieval day today here at Oakham Castle.
This is our first play day, the first time we've tried it, and we're really lucky to be able to work with the castle, and we've decided to put on a day where children can come and experience medieval music and early music. They can choose to sing in our choir and learn medieval songs, or they can play in our orchestra. We've put a scratch orchestra together who are all playing medieval music, and then we're going to all come together and put a performance on for parents. And we're really excited, and we hope that we'll be able to have another one at Christmas. So we'll be having a Christmas play day on the 10th of December as well.
This is Rutland Radio.
Alexandra, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio. We're here looking out over quite a blustery Rutland water today, but I mean it's been a huge sea of action over the last couple of days.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, the Optimus fleets were massive. I have to say I would be quite terrified on the start lines for, how many boats have been. But today has been a beautiful day. It's been very up and down wind-wise, but I've been very lucky to be able to go out on the water on most of the time I was out there, it was bright blue and sunshine, and the kids look like they're just having an amazing time.
And for them, it's a really important weekend, isn't it? Because it actually helps with the selection, could well make them international sailors.
Yeah, this is the beginning of their pathway. Hopefully some of these people are going to be our future Olympians, and this is where our current Olympians, where most of them started, so it's a really exciting time for them, and it's pretty critical in terms of that selection. But I think the main thing at this point is that they're enjoying themselves, they're having a lot of fun out there, and this is their opportunity to learn new things and make little mistakes and find their footing really within the sports. To be able to have the numbers that we've seen this weekend, it's a phenomenal thing.
Let's talk about your Olympic career. Firstly, congratulations on the bronze at Rio.
Thank you very much. Yeah, happy to be able to bring home another medal for Paralympics GB. We weren't particularly happy with the fact that it was another bronze, but to be honest. But at the end of the day, it was a medal. And
sailing, actually, this time round, does seem to be one of those sports that a lot of people are focused on, that maybe don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah, it's an exciting time within British sailing. Also, the level of sailing across internationally has improved. So, we're not as dominant as a country. I mean, we still were a top nation within the Olympics, but within the Paralympics, we didn't quite hit the medal tally that we'd hoped. But that aside, we've had a really, really strong team over the last few years. For the Paralympians, it's been quite difficult for us because it's been removed for 2020, so there's very much a campaigning side and developmental side that needs to be focused on to hopefully get it back in for 2024.
Whereabouts do you actually train?
Well, for this cycle we've been training out of Hamble primarily, mainly because of conditions and stuff, but my home club is still Queen Mary Reservoir just outside of London.
Is this your first visit to Rutland Water?
No. We've competed here quite a few times over the years, and obviously Rutland is very famous for the strength of its sailability group. I think a lot of our core sailability within the country in terms of competition-wise have come out of Rutland, and it's a great place to sail. It's been great for the kids this weekend, and we always look forward to coming up here and being able to get a chance to come out on the water and to and obviously to compete.
Alexandra, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
No worries. Thanks very much.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
James Seeley, Newark Livestock Market Sheep Auctioneer.
Now, this is quite a rare occurrence, actually, what we've been witnessing here today. Just explain, obviously got the sheep in the pens there. Whereabouts are they all from?
Basically, we draw from a large area. The majority of the sheep here today would be out of Leicestershire, Lincolnshire and the surrounding counties, really. They've had a travel all the way from Redditch. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically Corby Glen Sheep Fair, 778th year of it being and happening. And more so, it's the tradition of a grass field sale. Now the majority of sales are held within livestock markets on concrete and whatever. So it's sort of more tradition than a business day. But obviously, by the number of people here, it's certainly the tradition and how people like to get together and socialise, really. So
it still works very much like the big auction that you would normally run.
Yeah, very similar. What we do is we sort of grade the stock as we see fit. Obviously, these are breeding females, so we've salted them for age, breed, etc. But obviously on a smaller scale to what we're doing on a weekly basis, really.
For anyone who doesn't isn't part of the farming community. How much does a sheep generally go for, a breeding year, would you say?
It depends a bit on the breed. I mean, certain things are in fashion, certain things are out of fashion. Traditionally, you'd see a mule with a Suffolk ram on it to produce a commercial lamb, and your mule thaves today have been anywhere from sort of 90 for your bottom end up to 125, 130, and then you've had some sort of what we would call Texel and Beltex, which are your whiter face sheep, and they're sort of 125 to 140. So your breeding females are generally anywhere from sort of 80 to 150 pound for your commercial flock, but if you're going into your pedigrees and your bloodlines, significantly more.
So you're getting something, obviously, towards a pedigree of some kind.
Yeah, and I mean, we do sell pedigree stock. We've held a recent sale and you've had pedigree females into the thousands. So yeah, it's commercial money for commercial sheep.
As far as today, do you see this continuing into the future?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we very much are committed at Newark to livestock marketing, and certainly for the tradition. And, this is the oldest sheep fair in the country. It's still going. Yes, it's not doing the thousands, but obviously with disease and regulation and red tape that we go through, it's harder and harder to do. But, we are, as I say, very committed, and we are committed here to Corby Glen for years to come.
Is the industry still in good health, given, the challenges that you face these days?
Yeah, I mean, it is. The farming industry are a very resilient bunch of people, but we are challenged daily by more and more bureaucracy, red tape, uncertainty, Brexit, in, out, commodity prices, harvest. As a traditional mixed farm, it's a worrying time for farmers, I think, and I think that something like this is great because it gets them all together. They can talk, they can have a good old moan or whatever they want to do, but the future looks all right, but it's still very uncertain.
James Seeley, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
No problem at all, thank you.
Rutland Radio.
With West Street Garage. For services, repairs, MOTs and diagnostics, call Stamford 762 196.
Good morning, my name is Lenny. I go to Brook Hill Academy.
Are you a webmaster?
Yes.
What does that mean?
We put things on the school website.
And maybe when you grow up, would you like to work with computers?
Yes.
What job do you see yourself doing?
Engineer.
What does that mean then?
You engineer things, like invent things, just make things that have already been invented different.
Do you think there's anything that hasn't been invented yet that should be?
No.
I think we've almost got everything we need.
Yeah.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Well, Tom and Nicola Ray, thank you very much for sharing your time with us here at Rutland Radio and sharing your story. It's, you came to Rutland, you made your life in Rutland, and now it's being shown on the screen in places as far as South Korea, the Edinburgh Film Festival, and now actually with your workmates here at Land's End.
Yes, it's a story that we're very keen to tell to as many people as we can, principally because it conveys the message about sepsis, which is a condition that affects so many thousands of people every year and claims, over 40,000 people every year dying of the infection, and many more surviving, but with serious consequences, amputations and the like. So the more we can spread the word about that, the more lives can be saved.
How many years ago, actually, did it happen to you?
It happened exactly on the turn of the millennium, so December 1999, and then the real impact advanced over the following weeks, and I went into a coma mid-December and woke up again in April, the following year. And when I woke up, it was really, really odd in that the millennium had passed and I'd got this radical change to my body with having my arms and legs amputated, and all of my face at the time was gone. And Nick had been 8 months pregnant at the time that I got ill. So Freddie, our son, was born in January whilst I was in the coma. So she presented me with this brand new baby boy as well. So everything was a bit spaced out when I came to.
For you, holding everything together,
yeah,
that's effectively what you have to do, I guess.
Yeah, it is. If you thought about what you were about to do in these situations, then you wouldn't even embark on them. But the thing is that these sorts of things happen in lots of people's lives. Obviously, this was fairly extreme and full of a lot of awful, tragic coincidences as well. So the fact of Tom getting ill at the same time as me being pregnant, me being self-employed, which meant I couldn't work, he couldn't work, we lost the house, we lost the car, blah, 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 blah. Freddie was quite a sort of forgiving little baby, so I had him and then I bunged him in a baby seat and effectively drove him to Peterborough and Cambridge every day for 9 months.
Yeah, we worked out that you'd travelled 10,000 miles Freddie to and from Rutland to hospital during that time I was in hospital. So it's incredible.
And how old was your daughter at the time?
She was 2.5, and Tom had actually been looking after her, so he was, as he likes to say, Rutland's first house husband. He used to go to all of the baby toddler groups in Langham, so that the ladies of the Langham church group, you'd sort of adopted him and they really loved him. Tom had been looking after Grace, and she was 2.5 when he got ill, and then suddenly he just disappeared out of her life. And 9 months later, she saw him again because it was too difficult for her to go in because of all of the way that he'd been transformed. But fortunately, when he did come home, it was as if he'd never been away, because that's what kids are like.
And that was my biggest preoccupation, actually, in hospital, was how Grace would react. But in actual fact, the real battle was to do with getting back to work, which took 2 or 3 years. That's when I started working with Land's End, and I've been there ever since, 12 years now, working in the call centre. And that's given me a real structure. It means that I can, just be a regular dad, really, which is all I ever wanted to do.
You said at the start of this, through this, you've still got your family as you ever did.
Yeah. So I always say to people, I know it really does sound very corny. I can hear it, bells clanging, but I really do feel like the luckiest guy in the world, because I'm obviously married to the one person I always wanted to be with, and we've got 2 amazing kids. And although I've got all this kind of body furniture and this amazing backstory, I've still got an awful lot to kind of contribute and to be part of. And some guys don't have that, There are plenty of fellas that, grow older alone, we've all heard of, the single fathers that get estranged from their children. My dad was one of them, My dad was somehow, I don't know how he managed it, but he walked away from 3 young children and never came back. And it often bothers me, that thought of how could a person grow old with that in their head. And I never, I was determined that I wasn't going to be like that, and that I was going to, the one real success of my life is to be a father that contributes and does the right thing. I know it sounds a little bit dull, but that's really what I aspired to. And so even these amputations, and even all of the kind of financial wreckage and disruption that it caused, that wasn't going to stand in my way. So I'm quite proud of the fact that I've been able to hold that all together and to make a success of it. So
I think anyone listening would agree. It's who could ever imagine what you've been through? And even seeing 90 minutes of it on screen, of beautiful scenes of this beautiful county,
yes.
of the struggle that you had, really, to put everything back together.
Yes, I've seen the film 5 or 6 times now, and we were very closely involved in writing the story, and we were on set, but it's still difficult to watch. And one of the reasons for that is it is visually it has a lot of impact in terms of what you see of my facial damage, but it still brings me up short. And I think what it is about 2/3 of the way through the film, you start to realise that actually, hang on, he's going to lose his family as well. And watching the film, I realised how close I came to that, and it's still quite upsetting, the thought that I got so wrapped up in my own problems that I didn't see that Nick needed more support. And I suppose that's a lesson for us all in a way. We can all get wrapped up in work and the things that preoccupy us and our own personal obsessions, but we actually have these things called marriages that require us to communicate and to compromise and to develop and to be creative about and to be fun about. And for a year or two, certainly that was difficult for me, but hopefully we've turned that around now, and we've still got lots to look forward to.
And how did it feel when we got to the end of the film and all these people that you work with, that you see day by day, just came up to you, and they feel like they've now know another part of you, I guess, of both of you, of your family?
Yes.
This is really the first kind of public screening that there's been, apart from the Edinburgh showings, which were for kind of a sort of a bit of a small niche audience, a film festival audience. But this was actually the first genuine group of, cross section of people responding to it as in their own kind of genuine way. And I was kind of taken aback. I could hear kind of sobbing. I could hear some sniffing. I could hear tissues being rustled at various points, but I could also hear laughs as well. The kids are funny, the kids are cute, and you could hear them, people going, "Ah!" You could feel the audience coming along with you the whole way. But the applause at the end took me by surprise, I must admit. I was just kind of, I thought there'd be a kind of silence, but no, it was just a proper warm, genuine round of applause, and that was just so exciting. It just shows that it's a really, really successful movie that does its job, tells a story really well, and it makes what is a fairly extreme experience for us relatable to other people in their own ways because of their own relationships, which is great.
Now, this film's on general release on the 28th of October. It's being shown in Corby on that day. It's being shown in Stamford on the 18th of November for a run of a few days. What would you say to people actually around this area who... I can't imagine anyone around this area not appreciating some part of it, not identifying with some part of it.
Yeah, Rutland's like a big extended family, really. We've been here for 16 years. Yeah. No, 19 years now, isn't it? Yeah. About that. Yeah.
20. Yeah.
And we've got to the stage now where we feel very, very comfortable, and we know enough people in the street to say hello to, and so the film feels like a celebration of the location, not only just scenically it's beautiful. Of course, we all know Rutland Water's stunning on a good day, and I'm really impressed every time I see the film. It shows the expanse of the water, and when we lived in Hambleton, that was really so exciting to be surrounded by water all the time. I used to love going down to the lake and just being part of the scenery. And now that the film is out, it's a good feeling. It feels like it speaks for us as individuals and our story, but it also speaks for the surroundings, and in a very powerful way, and almost connects the story with the the whole environment, really.
Bill Clark, the director, did actually call it a love letter to Rutland. I can't think of a better way of describing it.
Yeah, Bill lives in Uppingham, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And probably feels the same way as we do about the smallness and the beauty and the connection with nature that we all feel, and the kind of big family of individuals that come together, to celebrate all the good things that are going on here.
Love letter to Rutland with your names at the top.
Yeah.
Yes. That's quite a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good feeling, and we came here from. I was a Londoner, and so was Nick, and we came via Leicester. But we were looking for somewhere really settled and quiet to bring our children up, and that's how it all started with us in Hambleton, and we've been very lucky. We've stayed here ever since. We're in Oakham now, and we've obviously been through all the schools, and we've got local employers, so everything's fairly kind of holistic. And now that the film is out there, it gives us a kind of permanent creative connection.
Yeah.
And that's important to us. We both started out in the creative industries, so being part of something like this is very special, very unique, and we feel very lucky, really.
Rutland Radio.
So I'm here with Rutland's High Sheriff here at the Citizens Advice Rutland annual general meeting. There's a lot of focus this year on rural poverty, and this report's been put together by one member of Citizens Advice in Rutland.
Absolutely, by Barbara Colson of Citizens Advice Rutland, and I must congratulate her. It's a really well-researched and interesting report, and there are copies available at Citizens Advice Rutland, and believe it or not, it's actually a really interesting read. I've thoroughly appreciated going into the details. She really does look at the statistics very carefully indeed.
It's something we hear about, but it's kind of hard to relate to it in Rutland, don't you think?
I know people have expressed great surprise and said, I thought Rutland was an incredibly affluent area, and many people in Rutland are. But it's a very rural area. 80% of the population work in rural occupations, and it has traditionally low pay, and the average wage earned by someone living and working in Rutland is £388 per week, compared with the East Midlands average of £475 a week and the national average of £528 a week. And if we take into account that costs in Rutland are high, housing costs are high, house prices are 20% higher than the national average, and the rents follow suit. Fuel costs are high. Employment is spread out in country area. Often you need to have a car. There isn't a good transport infrastructure, and we don't have major services within the county. So, the need for transport, which is also one of the things that is counted as a marker of affluence, but in fact for rural people, often a car is essential.
You think of the lovely houses there are. There's so many lovely areas of Rutland, there's so many lovely experiences, but there are pockets.
Absolutely, and I think it's very painful for people who haven't got as much money in Rutland, because poverty is something that's comparative, and so if you haven't got much money and you're surrounded by affluence, that makes poverty that much harder. And of course we do have a food bank in Rutland, which is another marker of need. I mean, I don't think anyone's starving, but the fact that we have a food bank that's used is something that causes worry, really.
And we're very nearly at London waiting in a way, because obviously our house prices are pushed up by the fact that people can get to London. Therefore, those from outside the county push up the prices and the locals find it hard to buy.
Absolutely, and I think there's a great need for fuel-efficient, affordable housing. And I think that Rutland County Council are going to have as their priority for the coming year a focus on poverty. And I hope that they will look to addressing the need for housing and also the need for encouraging business, because work is the one thing that can pull people out of poverty. I must congratulate the Citizens Advice Bureau on the wonderful job that they do. They do an awful lot of work helping people manage debt, manage their finances, giving them the advice as to what help is available. And that is essential too when you have people who are really struggling from day to day.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Now that we know that actually wages in Rutland aren't as high, and the challenges of actually maintaining the living standard of everyone else is a huge expectation. We've got to somehow actually even things out.
Yes, I agree, and I think Citizens Advice are doing a very good job in doing that. There are other things like the living wage, which hasn't yet been introduced, but there are worries that if you introduce the living wage, will that mean that hours are simply cut, and so people actually don't end up earning any more because they may get paid more per hour, but not actually work as many hours. And the other thing that I am surprised about is that the government help is only up to the marker of poverty. So, your help is actually geared so that it doesn't take you above the poverty level. So really it's work that can solve the problems.
So it stops you slipping any further, but doesn't actually increase?
Yes. And of course people are just struggling with debt. And it's extraordinary because I think in our society we seem to accept debt. Students, for example, start their lives with an enormous debt. And people who have very little coming in are constantly juggling, making difficult choices as to whether they pay the gas bill or they pay the electricity bill or they buy a present or they have a little holiday or they send a child on a school trip. Those are the things that they're having to think about.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
It's Rutland Radio breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. You've probably noticed the fun fair is in Stamford at the moment. Started on Wednesday, final day tomorrow, and it includes 3 hours of Pedro the Clown appearing as well. Now, Pedro joins us on the phone this morning. Now, we obviously have to imagine, your picture. We'll share that on social media. But there are people who are a bit scared of clowns, and it seems like more scared than normal at the moment because of what's going on around the country and around the world.
Good morning, everyone. You're absolutely right. Now, the trouble is, at the moment, it's just no joke being a clown because there are so many people going around, these counterfeit clowns, terrorising people in the streets and in the parks, and it isn't making life very easy for people like myself.
I heard reports that you may have to even tone down your makeup for Saturday. Is this true?
I'm trying desperately not to because I think it'll be the thin end of the wedge if I do. I'm not a scary clown, never have been. I've been clowning for 27 years now, so it's a long, long time. Just lately I have noticed, though, that people are getting a little bit apprehensive when we see a clown approach. And it's a great shame, it's a tragedy.
It's a tradition, isn't it, of hundreds of years?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, not just in this country, but all over the world as well. It is a tragedy because clowns are here to spread a bit of joy and happiness. They're not here to frighten people or to scare them in any way.
So tell us about your appearance on the Wreck in Stamford. So you won't be sort of jumping out from behind things and stuff like that, will you?
I'm not planning on doing anything like that, Rob. Well, I'm with you at Stamford tomorrow. I love coming to Stamford. I've been attending Stamford fairs for nearly a quarter of a century, I should think. I've been to the Middle End Fair many years ago. I've been to Stamford Autumn Fair, the very first one, 21 years ago. I was there again last year. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow because I love the people of Stamford. It really is a nice place. They always make me very, very welcome when I come there.
And if people would like to see you, is it completely free for them to interact with you?
Oh, yes, please. Come down, say hello, we'll have a chat. I'm there, I think, from about 2 o'clock or even a little earlier until at least 5. And I shall be juggling various props while I'm there. So, yes, please come over and say hello. I'll make you very welcome.
And as for these people who are dressing up, who are actually, they're threatening to ruin the reputation of good, wholesome clowns such as yourself.
Well, absolutely, and it's nice of you to call me wholesome. Thank you very much indeed. I have noticed that in the last few years there has been a changing attitude by various members of the public. Sometimes when I'm out in town centres, where I'm employed by the council or by local traders or the Chamber of Commerce, I do get people coming up to me and saying, would I please mind moving away because they've got somebody with them who might be afraid of clowns. Now, what other minority group could you approach in the street with a request like that? You couldn't.
No, indeed. And, at the end of the day, it's a joyous thing, isn't it? You just happen to be, a happy character that has a mask of makeup on.
Absolutely. You've put your finger on it exactly right, Rob. That's what we are. We're happy people. We're there to spread joy and happiness, not misery and frightening them.
Pedro the Clown coming to Stamford tomorrow from round about 2 o'clock to Stamford Rec to the Fun Fair. Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
My great pleasure, Rob. Thank you very much indeed.
This is Rutland Radio.
It's Rutland Radio, 9 minutes to 9. As you must have heard, Stamford have their biggest game ever at the Zico Stadium tomorrow. In the FA Cup against Wrexham, really strong side who actually haven't been doing all that well recently, but will that stand Stamford in good stead? A man who probably is closest to the action, apart from possibly the manager, is Bob Feetham, chairman of Stamford AFC. Morning, welcome to Rutland Radio, first
Morning,
off. Rob. Tomorrow. And you must be so excited, actually, at the prospect of Wrexham coming to the stadium.
Yeah, tremendous. Absolutely fantastic occasion for us. There's a real buzz about the town. People are really interested in this match. I think we're going to have a lot of people there. As you probably know, the Peterborough League gave local clubs a chance to call their matches off if they wanted to come to the game. I know that Stamford Belvedere and Ketton and Lions, who do play at the community pitch there, have all called their games off. Indeed, Lions are providing people to help us man the car parks. And that has sort of been the support we've got. Yes, I just think it's going to be a fantastic afternoon.
And as we heard yesterday, Wrexham and their manager have parted company quite suddenly. Now, is that going to help Stamford or not?
I think you'll agree, Rob, it's one of those great imponderables, because in some situations when that happens, the team then wins its next 6 games, and in some occasions, they end up in even deeper turmoil. So I'm afraid we don't really know what's going to turn up tomorrow. They've had a bad run recently, but we can't forget they're still a good team.
And Stamford always seem to do especially well when their backs are against the wall, when you think that there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Yeah. And then they pull it out the bag.
Yes, and that's the great thing about tomorrow, because I know they're all looking forward to it. I know they've trained hard this week. They're so keen to play in this match. John King, one of the newer players, when asked about his FA Cup memories, actually said, well, I haven't really got one. Tomorrow's going to be my FA Cup memory. They're all looking forward to it. They can go out and enjoy the game with nothing really to lose. So I think we could spring a surprise.
It really is a re-energised side as well, isn't it? Since your poor fortune at the end of last season, where you thought you were going to be promoted, it didn't happen. You ended up going back down, although to the south rather than the north. But, actually, Graham seems to have put together a really strong side recently.
Well, he's got a lot of enthusiasm, total commitment. I think he lives, breathes and eats it 24 hours a day, and it reflects in the team. And yes, that business about relegation and reinstatement left a deep wound, which this cup run is helping heal without any doubt.
And aside from the success so far, a club like yours is getting money for this, which is a great thing. Yes. It helps you invest in the future. Yes,
I think every season clubs like us look for a cup run to build some revenue. With 4 matches already under a belt, we've built some revenue, which helps enormously, because when we moved to Borderville, there was a lot of hidden costs that weren't met by grants, etc. So this does help. It also helps in trying to build a team for the future to get us promoted again.
So just finally, if you can appeal to the people of Stamford and Rutland to actually come to the Zico tomorrow, we're going to be there. What would you say to them?
Well, please come along. Please come and cheer the lads, because, just a year or 2 ago, a packed house at Histon saw them knock Leeds United out of the Cup. So the more of you there, the more we might be able to repeat that.
Kick-off 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Now, you are going to open as many turnstiles as are there. You can actually pay on the gate. It's not ticket only, is it?
No, it is actually pay on the gate from now. And it's we think we'll have 2 turnstiles open. If we need a third, that will be open as well. We're all prepared for that. We've got extra parking. We've got parking for the Wrexham coaches, which are coming. Everything's sorted, really. It's now, let's get on with the action.
Your support is as vital as it could be.
Absolutely.
Chairman of Stamford AFC, Bob Feetham, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Sarah Furness, High Sheriff of Rutland, the things you get asked to do at the weekend.
Absolutely. I've not minded giving up my lion because it's such a good cause. This is a charity and it's been in existence for 5 years. They're wonderful. 40 volunteers who give up on average 200 hours each a year, no pay, no expenses, just to find missing people. And there are quite a few of them. Apparently they get called out about once a week in Leicestershire and Rutland. And this is a wonderful exercise for them. They say if it's not raining, it's not training. So I think today they will get very wet, but it will be very good training.
So this is a confirmed sighting that Ross was in the Fox and Hounds public house in Exton at 23:15 hours last night. Now staff have said that he was drinking very heavily. There's one potential sighting that's been rung in by a motorist. The motorist has said that he had to swerve to avoid a pedestrian who was staggering heavily along the centre of the road on Barnsdale Avenue in Exton in the loose direction of the A606.
Jodie Hill.
How long have you been part of Leicestershire Search and Rescue?
About 1.5 years now.
And why did you join it?
For me, I think it's to do with the closure of the families, that if somebody's missing, I can't imagine anything worse than not knowing where they are, be it whether they're returned safely or not. At least you can understand what happened in those final moments, if it is a sad outcome, and if not, the moment of getting them back to their families is brilliant. So really just the closure for me, and being part of a volunteer team where everybody's really committed, so it's lovely to be part of.
I'm Jed Stacey Midgley. I'm a sergeant on the tactical support team for EMOPS, East Midlands Operational Support Service.
How vital would you say, a charity like this is? I mean, it's incredible to think it's only been going 5 years.
Yeah, it's a massive positive for us. I mean, the draw on police resources, not just our department, is massive, as I'm sure you can appreciate. And just to have that extra hand of help when you need it is invaluable.
I'm Paul Flanagan, the chairman of Leicestershire Search and Rescue.
Now, as our listeners can hear, the rain's coming down here at Rutland Water. A Sunday morning, a simulated exercise. Tell us how long you've been going, because people know about mountain rescue, Coast Guard rescue. They're probably not aware that this even exists.
Yeah, we're coming into our 5th year now. Last September we got signed off as full team status, which means that we can now conduct the search without the assistance of the police, obviously overseen by the police, but they don't necessarily need to be there. We're now up to 42 members, including non-operational members, which are equally as important as our operational members. Each member has to go through a 6-month training programme.
Now, this is a simulated exercise today. A missing man, last seen at the Fox and Hounds at Exton, somewhere around Barnsdale Avenue. He's somewhere around here. You've got dog team, you've got bike team, you've got volunteers. Staggering statistics, actually, for missing people, even in Leicestershire and Rutland.
Yeah, I think statistics say there's over 4,000 people reported missing in a 12-month period. I think there was 90 high-risk missing people, again, in a 12-month period. We've been called out to 50 of those. It costs us between £18,000 and £20,000 to keep us operational, but that doesn't include any personal expenses. We're all responsible for our own personal expenses, such as purchasing our kit, our search kit particularly, walking boots, waterproofs, and perhaps more importantly, fuel to get to and from the deployment.
And how can people find out more about you if they'd like to help raise funds or indeed help join you?
They can visit our website at www.leicestershire-sar.org.uk. where there'll be links there to make donations.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Alan Wordy. I'm tower captain at Haringworth, but I do ring here at Uppingham with John Webster, who's the tower captain.
You've actually taught many people as well in Rutland how to actually do this.
I've taught a few over the last 13, 14 years, but I must admit that Uppingham's lovely because they've got the simulator and it really allows you to concentrate on the ringers rather than making noise and having a single bell chiming at 7:30 at night.
Now, we can hear the rope going up and down in the background then, and there's a bell attached to that, but it's silenced.
Yes.
Not only have you got the clacker upstairs, which is tied, but also there's a volume control just there.
On the computer.
And the only time this happens is in Uppingham Parish Church, the only place in Rutland.
In Rutland, that's right. The church invested in the software and put it into the computer. But it's very simple. As you say, we tie the clapper off upstairs, but it means that the rope and the wheels and the weight of the bell is still there for the person we're teaching, so that then slowly we put the noise back on the computer, and then after a few weeks we actually untie the clapper and we then take them into the ring.
And it does mean actually you can teach people really quickly, for instance with Seaton.
Well, Seaton, I think in 10 weeks we taught 4 people, 2 youngsters, I think one was about 11 and one 12, and 2 older to ring because they had this extra bell that they augmented to 6.
So is there a minimum age, a minimum height?
I think probably height, yes. I can't tell you what it is, but 11, 12, 13 is probably a good age. But no, you don't have to be a great big sort of hulking farm worker. You don't have to be musical. You just need to have little fear and to be able to take instruction.
Now, I've only ever rung bells once in St John's in Ryle. I'd love to just have a quick go, but could I ring a really important bell somewhere? Literally a simulation of.
Well, this has got the standard church bell sound, and there's also Worcester Cathedral. But if you were to record another church or another cathedral and download those individual sounds for each bell onto this computer, then you could.
Could I ring Worcester Cathedral?
Yes, if you wish.
Love to. How many bell ringers do you ideally need? Because you're looking to put a course together on a Saturday.
For a course on a Saturday, I'm looking to run 2 courses. One is, I call it, Return to Ringing Refresher Course. So those people who have in their youth, or maybe not in their youth, have actually rung in the past, it'd be really great to see you back. We can knock the edges off with a refresher course and get you ringing very quickly, because there's a shortage of ringers. That's what it's all about. And the second course that we'll run, and ideally run with somewhere between about 4 and 6 people, is the New Ringers course. Emma did lesson 1 a few weeks ago.
Tell us how that was for you. How long have you been doing it?
Only about 2 weeks or so. I haven't been doing it that long.
And do you think you could be the youngest bell ringer in Rutland?
I think you can kind of join any age. I'm not sure, but I'd like to be.
How old are you?
11.
And what inspired you to come up here to actually try this?
Well, I saw when we got the new glass window fitted, I saw how they were ringing and it looked really fun, it looked really technical and everything, and I really wanted to have a go, so they invited me up here and I bell ring.
You smile when you do it as well.
Yeah.
You smile afterwards.
Well, yeah, afterwards. It's a bit frightening when you do it.
Tom Harley.
You're new to this?
Yes, yeah, only 5 lessons in so far.
And what inspired you to come up here?
Well, I've come to service here on Sundays anyway, and I'd long kind of looked up the tower and the churches, and had kind of a musical background when I was younger. I figured this was another way to kind of get back into it. And it was only recently that I became aware of kind of the shortage of ringers, not only locally but nationally as well. And it was kind of that kind of pushed me into basically making contact with John and coming along and learning.
Now, the regular ringers have just arrived. You're going to be part of what they're about to do. How does that feel?
Exciting. So it'll be the very first time. Looking forward to it.
Now, the returning ringers course might be a couple of weeks. The new ringers is probably going to be, as I said, with Seaton, about 10 weeks.
How can people actually find out more and get in touch with you if they'd like to sign up?
We've got a website which is called rutlandbellringing.org. I think that we've got our various telephone numbers on there. Very happy for people to phone. Alternatively, just go along to your local tower. I'll bet you there's a little notice somewhere saying, if you're interested in bell ringing, phone. But my name's Alan Wordy. They can find me through you. I live in Haringworth, or they can just come along to Uppingham on a Thursday or Haringworth and Seaton on a Monday and say, hello, what's it all about?
This is Rutland Radio.
So, Chris Ludby, we're joining you in the middle of your tour of Stamford, effectively. You've spoken to the churches, you've spoken to the students. You're also going to be giving a presentation as part of One World Week later. It's kind of, how would you describe you in a nutshell?
I would describe myself as somebody it's a miracle that I'm alive today, firstly, based on my experiences that I've had, coming through that whole life of living under apartheid, oppression, being put down, being told that I'll never achieve, and just daring to believe that all things are possible. And then coming through that life and fighting for survival, and I don't mean physically fighting, I mean, believing that I can become whatever it is I want to become, even though the system told me that I'm not white and I'll never achieve anything. So basically, I believe that I am a model or an example for others who are going through difficulties, when you look at my own life, in accomplishing whatever it is they want to become, and knowing that setbacks don't have to hold them back.
You mentioned that there were so many obstacles, and actually you really wanted to be a pilot, and that just wasn't possible in your country.
No, it wasn't, because in South Africa they had this whole system of apartheid, which decided not just where you could live and who you could marry, but it also decided your career choice. And they would only recruit white pilots, and I didn't know that at the time when I finished my A-levels. And so what happened was, when I applied, I discovered the hard way that actually they were only taking on white people. It would have been nice if they had just put that in the ad. So I was extremely disappointed. I was quite dejected. But then, life has a way of turning, and I eventually ended up working for this great man who had his own private jet, and we covered so many air miles, and I suppose that was the closest I came to being a pilot. But of course, just working with him and just learning from him was just amazing for me. It was better than being a pilot.
We're talking, of course, Nelson Mandela.
Absolutely, Nelson Mandela.
How on earth did you meet him, and actually, he took one look at you and said, you need to work for me, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely. It was a chance meeting, actually, because I was, after his release from prison, I was in Cape Town, and we were setting up an office for his party, and I was in charge of infrastructure, so setting up IT equipment, telephones, and all the rest of it. And so I got this phone call, and the person said, look, there's a call for you. So I went into the office, and it was him on the phone. And I couldn't quite believe it. And he said, is that Chris? And I said, yes, it is. And I put the phone down, thinking that it was a journalist like you, messing around. And, of course, then he phoned back, and he said, no, this is really Nelson Mandela. And he wanted to see me, and so I can give him an update. He hadn't met me. So I went to his office on the date we agreed in Johannesburg. And I get there, and he shakes my hand, and he said, oh, my goodness, how tall are you? That's the first question. Normally, if you see his interviews, he says, how are you? No, how are you? How tall are you? And I told him I'm 6'3", and he said, well, what size shoes do you take? I said, size 13. He says, you're just the man I want. And I said, for what? He says, to be one of my bodyguards. I said, bodyguard? Because that was hardly my career choice at the time. And so I agreed. And started working for him in April, and of course had to undergo training, and it was just such a joy to be with him.
Was there an aura about him, and an aura that the room kind of took on when he walked in?
Absolutely, because he had this amazing way of making ordinary people feel important. And he would, when he's speaking to you, he'd make you feel like you're the most important person in the world. That's the way he was. The other thing that he did very, very well is he always gravitated towards young children and teenagers in any situation. He'd leave the adults alone. I remember one time when Bill Clinton came to South Africa as president, he said to Bill Clinton, look, I want you to meet a very important man. And I was standing there, I'm thinking, who on earth is he talking about? Then he goes and fetches the chef's son, who was 6 years old, and says, I want you to meet this man, Bill. And I thought, well, what is he on about? But what he was trying to do was show us the importance of the next generation and how important they were. And I constantly saw him doing that when we traveled. We would go to a hotel, and he'd want to meet the people who were the cleaners first and the management last. You'd want to meet the cooks in the kitchen and the people that peel potatoes and want to shake all their hands first. So it was just a man who valued people.
And you now are a motivational speaker. You spoke to the students here. They were clearly absolutely gripped, very emotionally connected to your story. What were the impressions that you got from speaking to them?
I'm quite blown away, actually, from the comments that I heard from the students at New College, because they were so... One girl asked me to please write a message in her little book, because she wanted to look at it on days when she felt like she was discouraged and she couldn't achieve much. And, of course, the big message that I got from everybody that I've spoken to is that if I could have got through all of what I went through, then nothing's impossible for them. They could get through whatever it is and become whatever they want to be.
Just speaking to some of the students just a second ago, just after you finished your talk, they were talking about how inspirational this man was, who'd been through adversity, who there were so many obstacles in his life. I thought they were talking about Nelson Mandela. They were talking about you.
Yes, they were, and it's almost like, I don't know if you've read novels, and one of the things they say in novel writing is you're supposed to put the hero in a tree and throw stones at them, and that makes a good story. But in my case, there was just so much, and in millions of other South Africans. I'm not unique, by the way. There are millions that went through what I went through, and just so much adversity and constantly being told no. But what I shared with the students today is that you cannot believe that take no for an answer. Sometimes in life, if something's not working, it's feedback. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, it's just feedback that you've got to try something else, and you've got to just keep trying, just like an ant. You try and block the way of an ant, it will find a way around. And I told them the famous story that Nelson Mandela told me when I asked him, what can I do to make a difference in the world? He brought me a picture of a mosquito, and he said to me, if you think you're too small or insignificant to make a difference, you haven't spent a night with a mosquito. So they can all make a difference in the world that we live in. And one of the ways is by getting involved with organizations like One World, Fair Trade, Amnesty International. And by the way, Amnesty International and others were very, very instrumental in us becoming free in South Africa, because they put a lot of pressure on the government.
How is South Africa now? I know you live now in the UK.
Yes.
But there seems to be a tide turning. The African National Congress no longer has control of one of the big cities in particular.
I believe it's a good thing, because I think you cannot become complacent because you think you're the ruling party and because you're the party that defeated apartheid. And I just think it's a very, very good lesson for those who believe that government is a way of pilfering or becoming corrupt and just not delivering services. So what the people of South Africa have now finally learned, that it's all about service delivery. And in the last elections, the ANC got a massive drubbing at the polls. And I'm hoping, strangely enough, that they lose the next elections, just so that they can learn and go back to their roots. And I'm sure Nelson Mandela, wherever he is quite pleased at what has happened, because I don't believe that you can try and hoodwink people and not deliver and just think you can get away with it.
Can I just mention 3 names to you, one of which sadly is no longer with us? Michael Jackson,
yes,
Beyonce and Jay-Z. They're all people that have been in your company and you've been in theirs.
Yes. We had dinner with Jay-Z and Beyonce, and they were absolutely amazing, and they listened to my story, by the way, and Beyonce was in floods of tears because Nelson Mandela said to me, Chris, don't you want to just tell your story to Beyonce and what's his name? He couldn't quite get Jay-Z's name. And so I went and I told my story, and of course she was in floods of tears, and they cried. And of course Michael Jackson, it was absolutely an amazing moment to meet him. I met him. He visited Parliament on his birthday, and when he came in, I had obviously cleared this with Nelson Mandela first. So as he walked in, I started singing Man in the Mirror, and he joined in. And of course, everybody else was singing in the office. And so he invited us to his concert. We went to 3 of his concerts, and we were allowed to stand on the side of the stage. So I got a first-hand glimpse of all the tricks he does and the music. And he was incredible. I mean, I'll never, ever see a concert like that again.
He must be one of the most focused performers, or to have done what he did.
Absolutely. And his work ethic was just something else. And all the timings. I mean, I'm thinking, I wouldn't remember all the words of the songs for starters. And there were so many songs that he did. And then, of course, standing there, and then I'm going to move there. How do you remember all of that? It's not just like, because with his music, there was a lot of dance. It wasn't just like going to a Rolling Stone concert where it's just about the music and it stands still or something like that. There was lots of movement, lots of color, lots of lights. And he choreographed most of it. And for him to remember it all was just incredible. So it was very, very sad when he died. And it was a massive loss to music and the world, his passing.
And just finally, your impressions of our town, Stamford?
Well, I never ever knew the town existed, actually, until I was contacted by George and I started looking it up. And I was quite surprised. I didn't realize that it was this rural. It's quite a rural place. But absolutely wonderful place to come to. People have treated me so well. George and Jan, I'm staying with them. They've been so kind to me. And the Methodist Church, Stamford Methodist, have just been quite amazing. And the churches together. And it's just been incredible. I just hope that I come back here again. The school, new college, has been wonderful. They've hosted us this afternoon, gave us lunch, and just wonderful, friendly people.
Chris Lobby, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio and taking some time out of a hugely busy schedule to talk to us.
Thank you very, very much.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Can you imagine a world like the world that Chris grew up in?
Well, I definitely can imagine it, because I think we're quite lucky living in quite a free country. So, no, I couldn't imagine it really.
And everyone seemed to be really quite gripped by the whole thing, even quite emotionally moved by it, by actually what he was saying.
Yeah, I don't think half the people living now wouldn't have been able to deal with half the stuff that he's been through. It's mental.
Has it taught you anything really about how we live?
Yeah, just to appreciate everything a lot more and don't take for granted what we've got.
Well, I think it's amazing to see how just one individual can actually change people's lives, and not just someone's lives, just a whole country. Obviously, the effects it's having on society today, I think it's amazing, really. An amazing man.
You're talking Nelson Mandela?
Nelson Mandela, and also Chris Loob's story has also been absolutely amazing, and it's just amazing how it can also change a society and a country and the world in that fact.
Can you imagine the kind of conditions and the kind of opposition really people like Chris would have faced in the apartheid split Africa as it was?
Well, yes, I can imagine it. Like you just said, I think it would have been absolutely awful, and I think to live in that world today wouldn't have been imaginable, really. And I think it's just amazing that we've got people like Chris and Nelson Mandela in this world that can therefore change it for the better.
Rutland Radio.
Now, I want to play you a couple of things. Firstly, Stamford's manager Graham Drury speaking to us on Saturday.
I'd love to be the first manager to take Stamford to the first round proper.
And then this. Stamford's manager Graham Drury joins me on the line this morning. Graham, you said sore throat to me a second ago. I can imagine after that night last night. And it really went right the way through, past, normal time, 2 lots of 15 and 3-2. What a result.
Unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. It's such an achievement from the players. They gave absolutely everything for Stamford Football Club last night. To concede in the 92nd minute, I don't care what anybody says. I don't think there's been any team that wouldn't have crumbled against a full-time outfit. But my boys have dug in so hard in the extra time, and to get the win, amazing, absolutely amazing.
I could see the fight and the pride in your eyes on Saturday when you were speaking to us at the Zico. Sadly, it wasn't to be on Saturday, but your away form has just been so good and brilliant last night that you're able to replicate that again.
Yeah, I mean, that's 3 replays now in the FA Cup on a Tuesday evening. We've played perhaps 6 games now on a Tuesday and we haven't been beaten midweek. Travelling away all that distance, not arriving there till 7:20 due to traffic. You just couldn't write it. You couldn't make the scripts up. You really couldn't. It's just an amazing achievement. It really is.
One coach load of fans from Stamford. I bet the whole town wishes they were there with you last night. I know everyone was with you in spirit.
Yeah, I mean, for everybody who travelled last night, they can say they've been there when we've made history. Stamford's made history, last night, and then fans who were there can say they was there when we achieved it. And they was brilliant. I could hear them. They was singing, they was shouting, they was screaming. We was doing the same from the bench. The players was shouting and screaming on the pitch. We was all together last night, and I'm sure everybody was listening on the radio, and I'm sure they were as proud as what I am and the fellas that's gone out and done the job for us.
So, Hartlepool, any early thoughts for this? 5th or 6th of November? Who knows exactly when?
Yeah, we really hope we get TV rights. We really do. I mean, the players have, come across some sticky ties. To go to Wrexham last night and obviously draw with them Saturday, I think they deserve that, and it'd be fantastic for the town if we do get that, and it'd be fantastic for the players, management and the board. But we go there. We've got nothing to lose. Underdogs again. We'll go and work as hard as we can. We'll have them watched. We'll do all the work, and we'll try and cause another upset.
And it's back to business as usual on Saturday against Chasetown at home as well.
Yep, I mean, we've got a great squad now to choose from because we'll have Jordan Smith and Grant Ryan back in the squad. So that will give me, 20 players to choose from. I can only choose 16 of them, so 4 is going to be very disappointed. But it's back to bread and butter. We've got to concentrate on trying to get some league points. We've played more FA Cup games than we have league games. We're slipping down the table because we've only played a few games, but win a game to them, we can go right up to second, maybe top. So, we've got to get back to reality. We've got to get back to, working really hard at getting results in the league to move up the table again. And hopefully, we start that ball rolling on Saturday.
Now, obviously, you're proud of the whole team from last night. Do you have a man of the match or a proudest moment from last night?
The proudest moment last night was actually seeing a young lad who I've, took from Harrowby United, Sam Hill, Step 5 player, crying his eyes out at the end of the game. I mean, what passion that boy was showing, and he couldn't stop, and he ain't bothered about it. Your lads was taking the mickey out of him, but he was in floods of tears. He was over the moon, and, to see that emotion was unbelievable, and it just shows what character that kid is. But I've got to say the whole team. There wasn't one player you could say was not giving everything for the football club. So I've got to say it was a team performance, mate. It really was. It was a real good team performance.
Graham Drury, brilliant to have you on the radio this morning. Massive well done from all of us here. 3-2. How brilliant
Unbelievable.
Is that? In fact, actually, let me just finish with what you said on Saturday.
I'd love to be the first manager to take Stamford to the first round proper.
And you've done it.
Fantastic.
Well done. Thanks very much.
Mate.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
It's Rutland Radio, Friday morning. I'm Rob Pisani. Now, I'm sure if you've driven around the area, you've seen some black posters. And they've got pop acts on, they've got charities on. This is going to be the most amazing event on the 4th of November at Peterborough Arena. It's called Musicality, and James Ellis has organised it. James, who goes to Stamford School. This is still quite unbelievable, James, that here you are, a mere teenager, organising this massive, massive night.
Well, yeah, it's just something that I thought about a few months ago. I'm in awe of everybody else who's put this all together. Effectively, all that I've done is brought all the professionals into one place at one time, really. I'm no professional at all. I'm just trying to slowly orchestrate something that will hopefully be a great night for everybody involved.
And your 4 acts, Jay Sean, Top Loader, Scouting for Girls and B.O.B. Some of the biggest names in music over the last 20 years.
Indeed. I think bringing in B.O.B. most recently is brilliant. Songs like Aeroplanes and Nothing on You and things like that, it's really stepped it up another class. We're mixing with the big boys now, and I'm very, very proud of where we've come. And you look at people like Scouting for Girls who've dominated the indie scene for the past 20 years, 15 years, really. It's incredible.
And this is a charity night as well for the Matt Hampson Foundation, Stamford's Anna's Hope, Team George and the Injured Jockeys Fund. 4 great causes.
Yeah, really proud to be able to associate myself with them personally, but from a business level as well with the event. I'm really, really happy to say that they will be benefiting from all the proceeds from the event and all of the coverage that we've received as well. With their name just on the poster, I'm proud to see it. You know, it's not all about money within charities. Being able to see that we have a room full of so many people and they've all come out to support you as those people who are, you know, less fortunate in certain situations.
Vernon Kay is hosting the night. People can get tickets from the internet, probably the easiest way, isn't it?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to www.musicalityevents.com.
And one listener has the chance of winning a pair of VIP tickets. Tell us what the VIP experience is going to be.
So the VIP experience will be exclusive bars and toilet facilities with a dedicated chill-out zone, which is going to have, you know, your comfortable seating and your social areas that you'll be able to separate yourself from the hustle and bustle of a concert and have just a family conversation, for example.
How much are normal tickets and how much are VIP tickets if people want to buy them?
Normal tickets are retailing at £25, with VIP tickets at £35, all included booking fees.
So how do you fancy winning a pair of VIP tickets? If you'd like to, tell us which of the 4 acts that we've just mentioned recorded the top-selling album, Everybody Wants to Be on TV. Which of those 4 acts recorded Everybody Wants to Be on TV? Is it Top Loader, Scouting for Girls, B.O.B. or Jay Sean? Call me now, 01572 755 888. And James, look forward to seeing you on the 4th of November at Peterborough Arena.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob.
Rutland Radio.
Jill Clark, President of the Stamford and District Lions Club.
So tell us about today. You've pulled so many organisations together, haven't you?
We have. We've tried to get as many as we can. We've got the Macular Society, the Glaucoma Society, Links Blind, Diabetes UK, and of course ourselves, Stamford and District Lions. We're promoting our talking newspaper. Trying to get as many people in as we can who need the service. It's a free service, no charge whatsoever. Volunteers get together and do it on a Friday night. We do it every week, and it goes out to about 50 recipients at the moment. We're out and about with leaflets, so if anybody wants to join us and have a copy, that's fine. We're trying to promote as much about sight awareness as possible. There are so many people out there that are blind and partially sighted, and
I suppose as we're living longer, that there's certain parts of our body that do start to fail. I think of my late grandmother, and she passed away just over 100, and she had terrible problems with macular degeneration in the last 10 years of her life, for instance.
That's right, and it's happening in younger people as well. It's getting in with the young people. More people are getting diabetes, so they get the retinopathy problems. A lot of people have macular degeneration and glaucoma, and of course it is hereditary. So if you've got it in your family, there's a likelihood you're going to get it yourself, and probably younger. And we just need to be aware of our sight problems and keep a check on your eyes. It's very, very important to have your eyes checked regularly. Go to the opticians. We've got the opticians here that are giving advice as well, and trying to get people to go and have their eyes tested. Boots have been down this morning, and they've been trying to get younger people, trying to encourage the children to go and get their eyes tested as well, and make it not quite so frightening. We need to get everybody involved in it, and this is what our day is all about, trying to get as many people as possible involved and bring it to the public.
And actually, if you get your eyes checked, it tells a professional so much more about you than just whether you can see or not.
Absolutely. I mean, I go to the opticians every year to have my eyes checked. They check me for glaucoma, they check me for retinopathy, they check me for everything. And they ask you what's in your family. So if they know it's in your family, they're going to look. And they've got so much equipment these days that can take photographs of the back of your eyes and keep a good check on your eye health. And if you go every year, they will just update their records, keep an eye on how it was the previous year, and if there's any change, they'll deal with it. And if they do that, then it can be picked up so much quicker, and there's no need to go blind. There are so many diseases in this country to do with the eyes that are preventable. So if we can get on board and we can get it all sorted, we don't need to go blind. We need to just keep an eye on it and make sure it's okay.
So you're here till 4 at the Arts Centre, which is the Which room is this called?
Blue room.
I thought it was the blue room.
Yeah,
you're
we're in the blue room.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's very easy for people to find just heading past the cafe.
Absolutely. We've got signs outside as well. Some of our members are outside dishing out leaflets as well, so they can guide you in. But it's basically come through the Arts Centre, head towards the back of the building, and the blue room is straight in front of you. There's a very large lion sign that will point you in the right direction as well.
Jill Clark, thanks very much for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
Thank you.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Well, Martin Kemp, thanks very much for coming to Stamford to start with. That was really quite a privilege to be in the audience of that tonight. You talk so incredibly frankly over so many years.
Yeah, but I mean, that's one of the reasons I really enjoy doing this, is because you can say anecdotes and you can say stuff that I could never tell you on the radio, or I could never tell someone in the newspaper. You know, I can talk freely, and I talk as if it's me, without putting any airs and graces on, and you swear and you tell stories and anecdotes that only your friends know. And that's one of the kind of pleasures that I get out of doing these shows. It's a lot of fun, you know. I think if I got up there and I wasn't frank and I wasn't honest about stuff, then people would see right through it, and that's not me.
People always say, what are they like? And I guess that's the question, you know, when you talk about other people as well. You talk about some of the famous names that we know, and I always believe that the nicest ones are the ones that are around, that are enduring, that always come back, because they get the work.
Sure, yeah. The thing with me is I see fame and celebrity as a job. The more famous you are, the better jobs you can get, because they're kind of like credit notes in a way. I think if you look at fame as any other thing, then it all starts to go a bit wonky. But you can't speak for anyone else. You just have to look after yourself in this world, don't you? And make sure you're happy with who you are.
From the Spandau Ballet days as a teenager, and then I was amazed that you were only in EastEnders for 3 years. I thought it seems much longer because people associate you with it so strongly.
Yeah, because you were bored with me, that's why.
No, it isn't. It's just because you were a really engaging,
he was, yeah,
deep character.
He was a big character.
Yeah.
You know, he was a big character. I was lucky. He got some really big storylines, and like I said, you know, he went round and round in that square in different suits, doing the same storylines for too long, and I loved it. I loved every minute of my 3.5 years there. But I was also pleased that in the end that they killed me off, and that there was no way for me to go back, because otherwise I wouldn't have done all the really nice things since then, you know, like getting the band back together or different stuff that I've done over the last 15, 20 years. So in a way I'm pleased that they've killed me off. I think if you're going to go, that's the way to do it.
And Spandau Ballet, you talked about Through the Barricades, Turn Around and I'll Be There. I could just imagine you seeing the rest of the band when you heard that line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is a kind of unifying song.
It's a unifying song for different people for different reasons, you know. Like I said, you know, when we used to play that song in Belfast, it used to bring the two sides of the divide together. I remember looking into the audience and people were crying singing that song. And then when you play it in somewhere like San Francisco recently, and there were gay couples getting together, and you can see that was their song, you know, Through the Barricades, and how difficult their life is. And I think that song has kind of become a Spandau Ballet anthem in a way for us, the five of us, because, you know, at one point we never thought we were going to be able to get over the barricades, and we did, and we made it, and we brought our friendship back together, and that was the main thing for us. So it's a song that I love, my favourite Spandau song.
As to, and I asked your brother years ago, and
yeah,
he said that too.
Absolutely, it's the best song we have.
Martin Kemp, thanks for joining us here in Stamford tonight and sharing your story with so many people. It's a really quite full house tonight as well.
I really enjoyed it. You know, it's great getting out and meeting everybody. I mean, it's one of the things that I love the most, is meeting people that have supported you over all the years, and that's what these are for. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do it again.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.